What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Key Video Games. My name is Juan. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. This video is going to be about the games coming to retail the week of November 13th. We have a great lineup of games and some really interesting themes, as well as some great games coming out for the holidays. There is a couple of expansions, a couple of games coming from Kickstarter now going to retail, and actually one of these games have been really making a lot of headlines about talking about the way it's been delayed so many years. I think it came out in 2019 was when the Kickstarter was happening, and now it's finally being fulfilled. So let's get this video going with a quick disclaimer. Please keep in mind we're doing coverage on the games coming to retail in the US. You may have already seen these games come out in a different part of the region of the world, or you may have already seen some coverage, or you may already own it if you went to Essen Spiel. Just keep in mind we're covering the games coming to the retail in the US specifically. Also keep in mind we're still going through a global shipping crisis. Therefore, there may be some games that may be delayed or release dates may change or be updated. If they are, I will make sure to advise you on the new release week of the game's video. So in the new video, I will make sure to update you on the new release week of the game. Also, if you're a publisher and you want your game featured in these videos, please reach out to me the Friday before your game's release week with all details, maybe even a media kit about your game so we can make sure we can feature it in its respective video. Also, the sooner you get to me, the better. I typically record these videos on the weekend before the release week, so just keep that in mind when you're sending over your details. If I do miss your game, I'll try to put it in like a last minute update or even try to include it in next week's video as a special reminder or a notable reminder. Also, let's get these games showcased. So, starting off with a game by Deviant Games called Lacrimosa. It's coming out this week. I know it's coming out this week. I don't really have an exact date for it, but it's coming out this week. Lacrimosa is a game about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who has been deceased now officially, and you are one of his disciples essentially, or someone who's worked part of his team. You're trying to make sure that his music gets finished, the Opus Requiem, it's finished, and you are now one of his sponsors. So your whole goal, it's almost like a big Euro game, and you're going through and trying to collect funding, go to different theaters and promote it, and you're trying to gain points that way. Deviant Games has been known to release a lot of these heavy Euros, honestly, the themes have been really different. I think one notable one that Deviant Games has released recently in the last year, I think back in January, almost a full year now, is Bitoku. They both have a really heavy Euro presence, and there's always different paths of victory to win. Lacrimosa kind of showcases that very finely, and it does exactly that. So within the game itself, this pretty massive board, honestly, very complicated and diluted board, just like Bitoku. However, the art is beautiful and it looks like a great design. This looks like a player board as well. So it's going to be a player board where you're going to be playing different cards to do different actions. There's a little bit of deck building, and the game just looks very similar. It's a heavy Euro, just like Bitoku, with a different theme. However, the themes are different, and I don't think there is many music-style games out there. So this is going to be Lacrimosa coming out this week by Deviant Games. Coming up next is going to be Empires of the North Wrath of the Lighthouse expansion by Portal Games. So Empires of the North is a settler style game where you're going in as an asymmetric faction and you're going to establish your dominance in a different area along with economic values and increasing your market somehow. So it's an area control with a little bit of everything else. It's asymmetrical. However, this expansion adds a solo component to this. So this is a single player expansion with 15 different scenarios you can go through while playing solo. The game Empires of the North came out back in 2019. I've always wanted to try it out. However, I never got to yet. It's going to be a interesting game that's gotten a lot of great feedback, and this expansion adds a solo module to the game itself. This expansion is coming out November 17th, and it's going to be just a solo expansion essentially with 15 scenarios. Sounds pretty interesting, and it looks like if you get it directly to the website, there's a pre-order bonus that comes with a couple of different cards or modules. Keep that in mind when you're purchasing this. I'm not too sure if these may come to retail or if retailers might have these promos. However, you could get them directly through them if you pre-order through Portal Games website. Excellent. This is going to be Empires of the North Wrath of the Lighthouse by Portal Games coming out November 17th. Coming out next is going to be Crossing Oceans coming out November 18th. And Crossing Oceans is going to be an economic game with ships. Rio Grande Games, in collaboration with PD Games essentially, they release a lot of these style of games, really like I guess more like non-fiction themed games with really interesting, kind of like a lot of interesting mechanics with realistic themes. So for example, they have like a lot of railroad games. Now they have Crossing Oceans, and this is actually a reimplementation of a previous game called Transatlantic. Crossing Oceans, you're building a fleet of ship, and they also market the fact that you have a lot of different ships from different regions of different times of different regions of time. So you're going to be building ships, and the ships are going to be used to create a type of line or economy with your ships, going and delivering resources back and forth, gaining different points values from each different type of ship you have and different actions you have them doing. It actually sounds pretty interesting. I love a good game where you can kind of combo and line up different, like a build an engine essentially, and have it work for you. So Crossing the Ocean seems like it's going to be just that. I couldn't find many pictures of the game, honestly. It's one of their newest lineup of games. They have a lot of re-implementations of different railroad games and other economic style games with different themes and of course ships, I guess, because they do have a car one, a plane one, and they also have a train one, and now they have a boat one coming out. This is going to be Crossing Oceans by Rio Grande Games, coming out November 18th. Also another game by Rio Grande Games. This is going to be an expansion for Pictures. Pictures Xmas or Pictures Christmas. So Pictures is a party style game. You can see it right down here. It's a party game, and your goal is to build out a picture, or actually there's going to be pictures in front of you, and your goal is to re-implement those pictures with the components you have in front of you. There's a really interesting video on Pictures website. I'm not going to really go into that just because we're not talking about that. We're talking about the expansion. But the video essentially just shows you that you are grabbing different components within the box to try to build out pictures. It's a really abstract game. I really hope the XMAS kind of shortens that out and puts that towards something, because even the pictures are describing with those components looked they looked very abstract. It was very difficult. I couldn't even tell, and I was pausing the video and staring at it for a couple seconds to find out what it was. This is going to be Pictures Xmas, which just adds the Xmas expansion to it. So just Christmas theme. So I'm assuming Christmas trees, think gifts, think family portraits, stuff like that you have to re-implement for your other party members or other players to guess and gain points. If someone guesses your picture, you gain points, and if they guess your picture, they also gain points. So that's going to be Pictures Christmas expansion for Pictures, coming out November 18th by Rio Grande Games. Coming up next is going to be Two Tomatoes Games. Safari Splash is the name of the game. Two Tomatoes is the publishing company, and it's coming out November 18th. Honestly, it looks like a really simple kids game with some really fun art, a little chibi lion in the front. They have some pictures at the bottom here I can show you, and it looks like they even have an app to play the game. Sometimes some games are just better on apps than they are in board games. That's strictly my opinion. Take that for what it is. So you have tiles, and the tiles are going to be reconnected to create a line or a river connecting a connecting body of water, right? So you're going to have it all connecting, and you're making points by the connections. So if you look here, these are going to be point multipliers. There's going to be, for one, it's saying 1 point for every zebra that's connected to your stream of water here. And then if you have a monkey or an elephant connected, you get 7 points. So which is implemented here. It's a tile laying game. In the tile laying game, your whole goal is to make a stream and multiply your points the best way possible. It's a little puzzle. It's definitely going to be a little kid friendly. And of course, the art itself kind of says that for itself. And there's going to be a component called Splash. And the Splash essentially lets you kind of move your tiles around to be able to re-implement them in a different manner, maybe to kind of go with the flow or change up your strategy mid-game. It's a simple tiling game. There's definitely a lot of these games out there already. However, Safari Splash looks like a cool kids game. If you really like the art, definitely recommend picking it up. It's going to be by Two Tomatoes game, coming out November 18th. Coming out next is going to be Verdant. So Verdant. I butcher these names so much, and I've actually been proved wrong. I've a couple games, I've been proved that I do it wrong a couple times. So if I ever pronounce the name wrong, please forgive me and maybe correct me in the comments or send me an email. I would love to know how to pronounce these better. I am even well known to mispronounce designer like game designers' names. I mispronounced Uwe Rosenberg's name for a very long time until someone told me what it is or I heard it. So I think it's called Verdant, and if it's not, let me know. Verdant, essentially, you're collecting plants, and you're collecting plants to build over to decorate your house with. It's a set collection game by Flat Out Games. Flat Out Games also has a lot of, like, they've made Cascadia. Verdant actually relates to Cascadia, and there's another one called Calico. So they are known and really well known to make really great games. So Verdant is nowhere near that. Nothing afraid or far from that. It looks like a great game. So you're set collecting with plants. Your whole goal is to make your house as cozy as possible. Every set collection, of course, has different types of plants, and each plant gives you different type of point values. It just depends on what you're collecting. So you're going to go through and put your little leaf token somewhere to try to grab those and add those plants to your tableau. So that's basically what it is. Essentially, it's just a set collection game with a bunch of plants. The game looks fun, looks interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of these games already as well. But however, a lot of people are really excited for this game to come out. I'm not really too attracted to the whole the plant theme. It looks like a beautiful game though, and it adds a lot of that intelligent knowledge of just kind of knowing what kind of plants and different plants there are, which is always fun. I think a prime example game of this is Wingspan. Wingspan has a lot of birds. I'm not attracted to the theme, but I have played Wingspan, and it's still a really beautiful game. And even each bird card just has so much information, great art about the bird, which is always great to look at. And I can see this game having that same effect as well. This is going to be Verdant by Flat Out Games, coming out November 18th. Trudvang Legends by CMON, coming out November 18th. This game was on Kickstarter before, and it's now coming to retail. It came to Kickstarter around 2019, I believe. And it finally comes to retail now, and it's actually been shipped. It's been delayed a couple times and finally got shipped out to their backers. Trudvang Legends is a storytelling game, not a dungeon crawler. It's a storytelling game with a lot of variety of storytelling elements. So the whole game essentially, we can bring up the rule book. The rule book actually has some great pictures on it, so I can show you. So this is going to be the map board. Really interesting and cool thing about this is the map board has kind of sleeve slots where you slot things in to create connections. To create connections to different story points and seeing like where your story goes. So if you did A at the beginning, if you help the goblin at the beginning, the goblin helps you at the end, right? Like it's just kind of different connections. If you did not help the goblin, he's against you at the end. There's different types of connections like that or conditions that follow with the story itself when you're playing the game that your decisions affect you throughout the story. There's figures, there's miniatures, there's going to be a lot of storytelling, which is always fun for a game. I think games nowadays are lacking that. However, please keep this in mind. Since this game was coming out in 2019, I think it just took too long to come out. So the game itself seems it might be behind on its times now. There's a couple of other games that have come out recently that implement storytelling so great. I'm not going to really go over those exactly to compare them. That'll be a different video. But Trudvang Legends might have just taken way too long to be a valid game out in the industry right now to like kind of be that storytelling game. Like I said, there's so many more already out that have that storytelling element. So Trudvang Legends is going to be come on. I would recommend thinking about it, but there's just so many games that already do what it does differently. Strictly my opinion. It's coming out November 18th, Trudvang Legends. Coming up next is going to be Arkham Horror, the LCG, the Scarlet Keys campaign expansion, coming out November 18th by Fantasy Flight Games. The Scarlet Keys campaign expansion, I've talked about LCGs a lot, and I think I talk almost weekly of a different LCG that Fantasy Flight releases because there's just so much content coming out every week. The Scarlet Keys campaign expansion is going to be strictly a expansion for the campaign that you still need the base game to play. This is going to add some more story, some more characters, some more enemies to fight, some new scenarios. I am a pretty big fan of the LCGs, specifically Arkham Horror and Marvel Champions. In Arkham Horror, though, the thing about it is that you have to play through the whole campaign. You don't really have like scenarios or one module. If you play one, it's kind of going to affect your decisions on the next two. So you just can't play one and be done because there's two more to play still. So you kind of have to play it all the way through. It's not really modular in the way you can play a single scenario and be done with it. However, the Scarlet Keys campaign expansion is going to add a new story, and if you're into that spooky stuff or that H.P. Lovecraft stories, this definitely gives you scratches that itch for me. Easy to set up. It's a bunch of cards and it's a bunch of cards. You just set it up with there in the middle with a scenario, and the game starts. So Scarlet Keys campaign expansion coming out November 18th. And that's it. That's all the games coming out to retail this week. We have some pretty decent games coming out. We have some really big heavy hitters. Trudvang Legends, of course, really popular game. Everyone's going to like that. Verdant's coming out. There's also even Crossing Oceans from Rio Grande Games that I'm interested in. There's Lacrimosa, Empires of the North expansion for solo players, which is always good. Solo player goodness is always excellent. That way, if no one wants to come over to play games, you can play by yourself, which is always fun as well, and a great way to learn games prior to your game groups coming over to play. Awesome. If you made it this far into the video, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you listening to me for this long. I seriously appreciate that. If you made it this far as well, please don't hesitate to subscribing to the video or liking the video or dropping a comment. It really helps the channel, lets us know that we're doing a good job and that we can continue making and populating this content and eventually even more content for you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a good one.